Welcome to Sales is Not a Dirty Word, the show that proves if it's a fit, it's a fact. I'm your host, innovative sales coach Aleasha Bahr, the creator of the Black Sheep Sales Method. If you're a service provider selling your own service who's ready to sell differently than the mainstream status quo and convert 8 out of 10 sales conversations without having to act like a douchebag, then this is for you. If you want to know more about the Black Sheep Sales Method, then go to AleashaBahr.com. This episode is with Cami Guildner. She's a champion for women's voices in business success. As a business coach for high vibe women entrepreneurs, Cami blends soulful inspiration with mindful strategies to help clients succeed authentically. Her journey from corporate exec to entrepreneur leader was sparked by a magical moment with a horse, leading her to guide others in giving voice to their messages and building wildly successful businesses. Founder of the Extraordinary Women Ignite Conference and host of the award-winning Extraordinary Women Radio, Cami's work creates a new paradigm of entrepreneurship. Recognized as one of the 25 most powerful women in business by the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, Cami is a visionary, empowering women to raise up and make a lasting impact. Let's go. Welcome to the big show. Sales is not a dirty word.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, Aleasha. I'm excited to be here with you.
So glad that you're here. And you guys, of course, Cami is a fellow Black Sheep. She has a different way of approaching business, that it's very not hustle and grind. And I'm always a huge fan of anything that's telling me to get more by doing less.
Yes.
It's a message the whole world needs to hear. Because honestly, when you work through burnt out, you're just not going to produce a quality result. And it's like the rest is just as important as the work. And it's so hard to prioritize it. So I'm so excited to talk to you about how you kind of shift women into the space of, as you call it, time prosperity.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, first of all, Aleasha. I'm thrilled to be here, and I have fun in every conversation I have with you. So this is going to be a fun conversation, I'm certain. And I'm big. I totally believe that it's like there's just such a culture of hustle out there and grind and do. And to me, that doesn't speak to me. I left that world behind a long time ago, and I think we can build businesses in a way that's smart, that gives us not only white space on our calendar, but actually ways that we can slow down and live and be and do things that we love to do alongside of our business, as we love our business and working with our clients as well.
Yeah, you were saying something about how it's not just white space on the calendar, right, but the energy that you bring to it. And this is an interesting point, because sometimes when people have white space on their calendar, they're like, oh God, like, what do I do with it?
Right. And it's really true, right? I mean, that happens. And I've definitely been there. It's like, oh, what do I do with this white space? And, I've always been someone who was known for getting things done. I mean, I can go back my whole entire career, and I've been good at that. And so I really had to learn to slow down, to pause, to make that white space in between meetings, to use that white space in smart ways where I'm starting to think about my thought leadership. What do I want to be? What do I want to stand for? What do I want to be known for? And we can't come up with our biggest ideas and our biggest messages if we're in this phase of just doing, jumping between meeting to meeting. We can't do our best work.
It's so true. So sometimes, how do you help women discover how to relax into that white space and really use it so that it does inspire the ideas that they need?
A lot of it's about dropping into that soulful wisdom that we have as women. I mean, we've got this space. So I often am talking about it's soul plus strategy. So if we're working with both soul and strategy, that means we're pausing and we're doing our inner work. We're listening to that intuitive sense that we have inside. We're bringing those ideas to life from inside out versus from, having ideas come to us, and we get hit with so much noise every single day about this is the way you should do one thing or another. Versus if you let that flow from you, from that inner wisdom of you start to drop into a different space. And you can't, it's like you have to just slow down and be with yourself and be able to hear that inner wisdom to be able to let that come to life.
Well, and is like when you ride horses, does it kind of support you or accelerate you dropping
Oh,
into that
totally.
space?
I mean, it's like anybody that it can be, if you like nature, if you like, you're like me and you love to be out in the barn with a horse, if you like to, was I just talking with somebody just this morning and they were sail kiting, in something
Oh,
entirely different, but like just playing with the different energies of something that you love to do, and it drops us into a different zone. And some of my best ideas come when I'm not sitting in fact, almost all of my best ideas come when I'm not sitting in front of my computer, but I'm in spaces of inspiration.
yeah. So for me, it's coloring.
I love the color.
Yeah, it kind of is like just
Yeah.
enough if I sort of zone out
hmm
and I'm not focusing too much on what colors I'm picking for which
Yeah.
things, it kind of helps me process
Yeah.
through
That's a really good one
things.
because it basically takes us out of that mind leading into a different space of just playing,
Mm,
right? And we don't play enough as adults.
that's so
Yeah.
true. And it's interesting because I was, talking to my husband and he's like, "Oh, I'm like, looping in my head about stuff at work." And the only way he knows how to get out of that is to like hit a mute button with the TV,
Oh, interesting.
which I think is the case for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and is very different from
Right.
processing.
Right. So you've still got noise coming at you, but it's a numbing kind of noise.
Yeah, it's like you're not processing your thoughts, you're sort of just shoving them
Yeah.
away in your white, quote unquote, white
Right.
space,
Right.
basically. And that is such a common way for people to like
Mm-hmm.
relax or
To numb.
decompress. So, yeah, basically it's numbing, but they don't know
Yeah.
that. They just know that all of a sudden they feel less
Right.
stressed or
Right.
something. So, do you sometimes when you're working with people, do they have these sort of habits that you guys work
Oh,
through?
totally. Totally. I mean, we all have these habits, and I think that learning to find our habits, learning what, keeps us, what's our general state of being? Do we like to go into the doing mode? I mean, some people truly are amazing at the pause. I mean, that was not my case. I was not amazing at the
Yeah.
pause. And so I had to learn
No.
that. And so it's like we all come from different spaces, but getting to know ourselves, and often where I start my clients is just doing some deep inner work of, when are the times that you've been at your best? What are the stories around that? Who, how do you take that into your brand? How do you take that into the way you do your business? We do archetypal work, and so we do some of that initial work that's really digging deep into who each person is, so that when I'm working with someone over the course of a year or more, we get to the space of being able to see these things that pop up for us and those roadblocks that can get in the way.
Yeah, and it must make such a huge difference that you can call them on
Right.
it,
Right.
Hey, you're slipping back into that pattern of just doing that's making you
Yeah,
spiral
and
or
I'm pretty
whatever.
gentle with it. I'm not one that's, I'm not a hard hitting type of a business coach. I'm one that is actually there in partnership with them and asking them to go deeper. I'm really good at helping my clients go deeper. I mean, I bring my clients in for work. I do an equine vision journey retreat, which is with my horses. And so my clients come in to be with my horses out in nature for a 2-day retreat. That's part of the work that they do with me. We do a speaker training that's called Soul Speaks from the Stage, and that work is about letting your story come from within you and versus telling a story from our mind, but really letting our story come to life from our soul, from our hearts. And all of
Yeah.
that kind of work, that inner work of going deep into who you are, the work with the horses, the work with the Soul Speaks, all of that really starts to attribute to my clients stepping into something that is deeper. It's helping them connect into that deep soul work. And journal, right? Like just having journal questions to work with can help us go deeper. All of that helps us build businesses that we want, that really light us up. Because so often if we just go out and we start following all the strategy, all the linear processes, we don't actually end up with a business that is what we desire. If we start with, okay, what is the business that I want to build? What's the energy I want to be in on any given day? What's the flow of my weeks, my days, my months? How does that all come together? And we design our business to fit that. It's a different approach to looking at business. And so I like to turn business building on its head.
Yeah. And I mean, what is the difference in results? I mean, I can
Mm-hmm.
guess, but I'd like to know for sure from you when somebody comes in and they have a business that's, quote unquote successful,
Right, right,
maybe revenue wise, but like when you're talking about those soul stories when you're speaking, it's like the things that make you well up a little bit when you're
right,
talking
right.
about them. Like you can hear and see the emotion, and people are so scared. Like for the people that are listening that are like, ah, that sounds really scary and I don't understand how that gets me a better result.
You
Like
attract
what
you
happened?
attract your soul clients,
Yeah.
right? And you attract the people that are meant to find you, that are meant to work with you, because you're truly being you. And I think that's the best thing that we any of us can do in our work, is show up in our business and our brand truly as who we are, because then there's no one else just like you. If you follow the formulas like everybody, like everyone else has done, you put your messaging together just like everybody else has done, what happens is you start to sound just like everyone else. And people don't feel the specialness of you. But if you're building your brand, if you're building your messaging and how you attract clients into your business really from a different soul space, you you will be attracting your best clients that are meant to work with you. So there's like this soul alignment that happens.
And they probably pay
Oh, totally.
more.
They pay.
And
They come and they feel like, oh my gosh, you are the one I'm meant to be working with, and it's because they've experienced you. They've felt that draw to you. And I can think about when I've hired business coaches. I was talking about this just this morning. I'll go look at 20 different business coaches and go, nope, 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 and all of a sudden it's the one, right? And it's like, I know it in my gut. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is meant to be the person I'm meant to be working with. And so I go. And it's not a lot of thought. It's not a lot of, it's like, I just know. And I can, I've been doing this for 15 years now. And I've worked with some amazing business coaches. And every single time I've made that decision, it has been just an instant knowing in my body. And so I think that's what we're going for. Is like we want to attract the people who are the right fit for us. And if we're building our messaging and our brand from a perspective of simply being who we are in our brightest light and turning that light up and letting our light shine, that's when people are like, oh my gosh, I want what she has.
yeah, it's magnetic.
Exactly.
So you've never like gone with your gut feeling and not been happy with the business coach. It's always been a good
It's
fit.
always been, well, it's interesting. I would say yes. There was been times where there was one time where I was like, I don't know if I got what I wanted out of it, but I could go back later and look at what I learned under that coach and go, oh my God, it was exactly what I needed to learn. There was resistance where I was learning there, but when I looked back at it, it was like, oh my God, that was such an important piece of that whole puzzle. Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, I love also that you're really speaking to the fact that there's something positive to be gained from every experience, and every experience makes you smarter
Yes.
in the way that you know who to. I mean, you're talking about basically repelling as much as you attract, which is a big part of what I talk about
Right.
too in alignment with
Yeah.
sales. Like, you don't want people who are a bad fit. Like,
Right.
have you ever had a nightmare client,
I have,
Tammy?
and you don't want them. You definitely don't want them. And, so attract the right people into your business. And sometimes when I get to look at who I get to work with, I get to pinch myself and go, oh my God, I have the most amazing clients. And that's a cool thing.
And seeing their results is so
Oh
addicting.
yes, totally, totally. When you see the breakthroughs, when you see their successes, when you see the ripple effect that they're creating with their clients, that's what does it all for me.
I know. It is like the best drug ever.
Yes. Yes, totally.
Okay, so I know we talked about you basically help women scale in smart ways, and there are three prosperity pillars that they're usually a little off
Right.
on. And also like the order is often wrong. So what is the order that you recommend building a business on?
Okay, so I start with vision, and vision is very much about the vision of the business that you want to create. So it's the right work-life balance. It's like, how do you want to be showing up? Do you want to have a 30-hour week? Do you want to have time off in the summer? I mean, really designing what you want your business to look like. Looking at the impact that you want to make with your business. So doing the big picture thinking about that. And then from that, starting to say, okay, how do I create that? What's the business model to create that? What I'm talking about here. So looking at starting there, because very often what I see is women are undercharging, and they're not doing the math. They're not sitting there and thinking, okay, this is the dollar amount I want to get to. How can I build my packages? And most of my clients aren't needing thousands of clients. They're needing a number of clients that gets them to that number that they're wanting to get to, because they're bringing high value to their clients. And so that is like designing that, doing the math is really, really important to create that vision of what you want to. So that's the first piece of it, is the vision.
Well, what I love about that I want to call out is that I think when people think about vision, they're like, oh, they think more of the impact that they're going to make. And they're not really thinking about specifics like, what does my day-to-day look like?
Right.
Which is the difference between you hating your life and not hating it.
Right. So finding that right? Really... and it's like, women who are moms, like you're a mom, I was talking about my niece being a mom building a business, and it's inspiring to see that. But you're going to create a different kind of business that works around your family life than I'm going to create that works around, what I want to create. So each person, there's not like a magic formula to create this. It's really each person saying, what do I want to create, and starting from that space.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that when you love what you're doing, that naturally, and you love how you're doing it, that naturally it's going to grow. Because do you see that people kind of sabotage themselves a little bit when they hate their day-to-day? Maybe they don't bring on clients. Maybe they don't meet deadlines or finish work because they're secretly
not wanting more.
So out of alignment.
Right, and they're not wanting more. I definitely had a client that was in that space where her one-on-ones were filled up, right? She was like, I don't want to market myself because my one-on-ones are filled up. I'm like, well, we can fix this. We can change this. And, so she was able to really make that switch of moving more into group coaching. She was increasing her prices. Her son graduated last year, and she was able to take off the whole month of May to do graduation things. And it was what was most important to her. And she, at the same time, she was, going from a $100,000 a year business to a $200,000 a year business. And that's really inspiring to see that transformation, and women giving themselves permission to say, I want to take off that time with my son while he's graduating, because it's such an important milestone in his life. That lights me up.
Yeah, lights me up just hearing about it. And so many people do skip the math.
Yeah, they do, and it's simple math. It's math that we all can do, and I all believe that we have great math skills as women. I'm not one that says, okay, we don't have good math skills. I believe that we all have good math skills. I think that's a storyline we've been fed for a long, long time. And it's simple math. It's like how many of these do I need to sell to get to that number that I'm wanting to get to? And so that's do the math. Do the math, definitely.
Yeah.
And charge the value that you're bringing into the world, because I think if you really truly look at the value that you create for your clients, it's not just that time that you're working with somebody. It's the transformation that takes place in that time that you're working with someone can last a whole lifetime, because they've made different choices and they're stepping into different strengths and passions and values and how they're meant to show up in the world. And that is exponential.
Agreed. And that's something I'm always talking about too. People, women and men, but especially women, feel so bound to hours. Like, this is how many hours it's going to take. And so for me to charge a lot, I have to be spending a lot of hours.
Let's turn that thought off.
Yeah, it's about the result you get. And if it doesn't take you long, it really seems like you should be paid more for that, not less.
Exactly. Exactly.
You
I
know?
know. I think that's a big one is and we were just doing training in my mastermind yesterday about this conversation around the ask of money, like when you get to that point. And she's like, I'm really good at the whole sales conversation until I get to that point of asking for the money. And it's like, let's talk about the value that you bring. Let's really talk about what's different, and let's talk how you can embody that number and feel into that number. And let's practice with that number so that it starts to feel really natural to you versus like, like you're holding your breath as you say it. And I get it. I mean, I definitely have been in spaces where it was like, oh, do I really want to, as my business was growing, as like I started increasing the investment in my programs, there's a stretch that we go through. And I know you know this of all people. I know you coach this with your clients. And it's that stretch that we go through when we go to that higher number. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be the low price person in your field. It's not going to get you where you want to get to.
Well, it's definitely a more demanding client,
Mm-hmm.
ironically, most of the time,
Totally.
the lower paying one.
Totally. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. They're living in a place of scarcity, which is just, I feel like bad juju for
Yeah.
success. We're not going to be able to succeed if you are terrified.
Totally. Totally.
Okay. So vision, getting clear on the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's next?
Voice.
Step two.
Voice. So, and we've talked a little bit about voice, about building your brand from the inside out, the stories of who you are, your strengths, your passions, who you are as a person at your very essence. So rolling that into the voice of your brand. So you're unique. Nobody else sounds just like you. The second part of voice is getting into your customer journey and learning to speak your client's love language. And I know you and I are very aligned in this. It's like, let's speak to what our clients are desiring. We have to understand the pains and the challenges and all the things that they're going through in that journey that they're on, and where they're at, and how you can really go deep with them in that space and where you can take them in that journey. But if we can build marketing around what your clients are aspiring to, we attract a different level of client to us. Two, we are helping our clients see bigger possibilities for themselves than they can even see for themselves. And so really changing up how we're marketing and attracting clients into our business by really being with them in their journey, but helping them see bigger. So that's the second part of voice. And then the third part of voice is really getting into building a thought leadership message. And it's like it's a message that's up above your client messaging, but it helps you stand out in your field as a leader. And a thought leadership message helps people stop and think and act and do differently, because they're seeing it, they're putting a stake in the ground. You're putting a stake in the ground for what you stand for, but it's unique and it's your original thought, not just somebody else's thought. So you're really starting to position yourself as a leader. So the three components of voice really are tied to building your brand from the inside out, speaking your client's love language, and then having that thought leadership message. And so those three components helps you attract more clients into your business and do it in a way that's really authentically you. So that there's no one there's just no one that can be just like your brand, because you are unique. And that's where you get to be able to collaborate with people. And, to me, that's the most fun part of marketing, is collaborating with others like you, where we're bringing, like, we have shared values, we have shared alignments. And it's like, let's play together. Let's bring this stuff to life.
Yeah. Collaboration over
Yeah,
competition.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's so interesting how sometimes people can forget what it was like to be their client. Like, I was working with someone who basically is an I wasn't work I was doing a session with her. She's basically an adversity coach,
Mm,
and was couldn't remember what it was like to have gone through a massive loss. Like, your brain is a little
right,
scrambled.
right.
You can't do a lot of heavy lifting. And so you talking about almost like channeling that and then speaking to that person, like remembering, like embodying it for a moment and then creating from there.
Totally, totally. Because so often, I mean, I certainly coach women who are on a journey that is similar to the journey that I've been on. And I think that happens the same for. So the more we can go back to those moments in time, and we can start to anticipate what's next. And that's another benefit of doing it from this perspective, doing this deep work, really tapping into what was I going through at that time, or talking to people and really hearing their words that they use, so that we're not projecting our language onto people. We're actually using the language that our ideal clients use. And what I find is that once we get it deep into that customer journey, we can really anticipate their next need, which makes makes the journey with our clients a longer term journey with us, right? So we can keep serving them because we understand that. And when we do that, that's a multitude of repeat customers that can be the easiest customers to bring into our business, is if we continue to serve our clients in the next phase.
I love that you focus on client retention, because there's a lot of business coaches who are focusing on putting more energy to prospects and clients.
Right. Totally.
And it's a never ending hole that you have to fill.
Well, yeah. And it leaves, your clients are going to feel that. I mean, your clients are going to feel that she's putting way more effort over here than she is on us. And so that, pouring love into our clients and walking that journey with them, I think, is some of the most important work that we can do.
I so agree. And that naturally brings more business, because you get referrals and good reviews and people stay with you longer. And I mean, there's tons of data that shows that client retention is much less expensive and more profitable than acquiring a new client. There's a much higher cost associated. So love to hear that. And then what is the last part once they have this, I also want to ask, with them having a thought leadership that's different, do women ever worry I don't have anything that's different, and you have to kind of help them?
That's one that is the hardest. It's definitely one of the hardest ones to get to. And I talk about having a one message for the world, and I have clients that it took them a couple years to land on their one message for the world. But when they do, they're I'll share one that one of my clients has, and it took her a couple of years to get to it, but it's going to go right back to this women in math. It's, what if we stopped asking girls if they're good at math and started asking them what problems they want to solve? Well, she's a rocket scientist. She's literally a rocket scientist. And she's, so that statement gets people to stop and go, what if we stopped asking girls if they're good at math? We want them to do something different. Stop asking that. And let's change the conversation, right? And so she works in the aerospace and aviation world, and she works with young women coming up in that space. So to me, it's finding something that gets people to do something different than, and it's this is her unique thought. And it took her a while to get there, but her message is so strong now. She speaks around the world. She's very much known for, making changes in the aerospace and aviation for women. And so it's it takes time to develop our thought leadership message. And part of the reason, if you go back to that white space, we need white space to be able to get to those level of messaging. And we need to give ourselves patience and time to develop that.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. The idea for Black Sheep came during white space. Yeah,
exactly. So my one message for the world is women's wisdom is the medicine our earth needs. So, and that didn't come to me overnight, and this, but it's being patient with it and letting that come and continuing to give yourself that white space to create it.
Yeah. The rest is just as important.
Right.
Okay, so once they have that, then they have their numbers and what they want their day-to-day to look like, and then they have their voice and they're really clear on it. And then the third pillar
is visibility. And I want to just emphasize, it's really important that you have those first two pillars in place before you start getting visible, because you can go visible and you can be out there talking about a lot of stuff, and you have no place to put them into programs. And I see people doing that, where it's so their business model is kind of flailing because they haven't really figured out what programs they have that's going to build the business that they want, or their messaging is kind of, all over the place, and they haven't really refined that. So do the first two, then get visible. And you may not have your full thought leadership message honed in before you start getting visible. But definitely have the core of these pillars done before you start getting visible. And then it's a matter, and that's visibility is where the fire in your marketing comes from. It's like getting out, getting visible. And there's so many great ways that we can get visible as women. It's like we can go online, we can have podcasts, we can get on stages. There's so many ways that we can start to do that, and look for ways that we're marketing to our clients in a way that is, bringing people back into our teachings and bringing people back into our wisdom.
Yeah. And what do you usually see women struggling with about visibility?
So much. So much. And I can be, I'll test all day long. I was one that was terrified of stages when I first started my business. I had a really bad experience in the corporate world, speaking to 200 women in the oil and gas industry, and totally flopped it. Totally flopped it. So when I started my business, I had a business coach tell me, one of the fastest ways you can grow your business is to get on stages. And I was like, yeah, nope, not going to do that.
Yeah, you had PTSD.
And when I set my vision that I really wanted to impact 1 million women around the world, helping them raise up their voice and their visibility, I was like, I'm not going to do that one person at a time. I need to get over myself. So I totally understand why women pull back. They play small. I understand all those fears associated with that. And it may not even be fears that's holding them back, but it can be like, who am I to own this message? Who am I to, stand up and be bold in my messaging? And so helping women kind of break through some of those stories, I think is part of what I like to help them truly just embody their message, right? Like walk in their truth and know that they stand for something that's really important and the impact that they're going to create with this.
Yeah. It's interesting that they feel kind of unworthy of it. And I could see that. I was thinking that they just don't want to fail in a spotlight.
Yeah, and that happens definitely too. That definitely happens. It's like, it's when you start stretching into spaces that, that you've not been before, people they pull back. And I think that's one of the best skill sets that we can gain as entrepreneurs, is that ability to be able to stretch into spaces that feel uncomfortable, and then go ahead and do it anyway. And then that stretch becomes, and we're always going to be stretching. There's stretch places that I find still today. Like, it's like, every phase of our business, there's going to be a new stretch to step into. So the more that we can learn that skill set of being uncomfortable, or being comfortable in the uncomfortable as much as we can be, and knowing that we're going to be okay when we do it.
Yeah. Like, there was nothing to be afraid of. We didn't die.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So just to recap, everybody, it's about resting as much as doing the work, and having an energy that you bring to resting, and understanding what triggers your innovation and your inspiration that allows you to really plug into the voice inside, which we do all have, although we've been told by society since we're born to ignore it. It is there, and it directs you in more powerful ways than any other strategy. And once you can tap into that, creating the vision and the voice that is going to create a message and a business that lights you on fire and makes an impact that you can be really proud of, and then getting visible and not playing small, because you owe it to the people that you're serving to not play small.
Yeah. And so often, and just one last piece here, so often in any one of those three, it might just be a small tweak, right, that really can make the difference in a business. So it's I think that's really important. It's like it can be, it doesn't have to be, like you just throw everything out that you've already built. It can just be small tweaks that you're making in any one of those pillars that really changes how the outcomes are working for you.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of a small tweak?
Sure. So pricing, I'm just going to go with pricing. I was working with a woman who was a consultant, and she had years of experience in the corporate world. She was building her business, and she was putting together this really great proposal for a client. And she brought the proposal to me and I looked at it and I'm like, you're not charging enough here. And she's like, ooh, can I really increase this? I'm like, yeah, take this up, take this number up. And she turned that number up. The client didn't bat an eye. They, took the proposal as it was. And with that one proposal, she paid for her high-end VIP mastermind program with me by that one tweak. And that, just set her business on a different trajectory, because she was no longer charging that lower rate. She was charging this higher rate. And, so it was exponential again.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so hard to see those tweaks when you're inside the business. Totally. So it really helps to have an objective point of view that has experience. And so that brings us to a good stopping point, that this is the end of another episode of Sales is Not a Dirty Word. Thanks again, Cami, for making an appearance as our guest today. And where can people find you and work with you?
My website is camiguildner.com, so KAMIGUILDNER.com. And you can go there. At the top of the page, there is a get updates. I do free trainings every single month. So jump into one of my trainings. You can see if it resonates with you. And if you really want to talk more to me, I'm happy to have a deeper conversation with you.
And definitely check her out if you need that message of just, doing less to get more and being intentional with the less that you're doing, because it's something that it seems counterintuitive, but I've seen so many times to produce such better results. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.